Hello, ladies and gentlemen. As it turns out, it is Wednesday, November 9th, 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 374. Oh my gosh, my notes did not betray me today. I know exactly what day it is, what the daily is, and listen to me blast off these announcements in ASAP mode. For Fun Day Monday next week, submit to me a game of you mothership rushing. You may not build your first expansion until you have begun a mothership. Woo! Submit those to Monday at day9.tv. After the daily tonight, I'll be streaming Amnesia until it's done. Woo! That's gonna fucking suck. The third and most important of all, I will be playing Skyrim for probably 8 hours on Friday. I'll be starting that at 9 a.m. PST. You can actually buy it now and download it and sort of preload it. You can't play it yet, I'm sure, unless you're very sophisticated and live in the future. But I am not. I live in present times. I am but a mere scrub. And that's going to be so cool. For two reasons. One, I just love Morrowind a lot. That's like a game that's important to my soul. And two, it's not scary. It's not, God, Amnesia stresses me out. And I'm going to be playing that for a long time. Let me show you a little bit about the stress that happened. I was showing this before the before the daily happened. It was too good not to show. All right, come to my videos, guys. Come to my videos. Here we go. This is for any of you who have not seen me play Amnesia. This is the setup, right? We have Amnesia in the main screen. We have me here in the bottom right. And then we have this Day 9 TV banner, so that way everyone knows, oh, that's not just some random guy. We can attach a name to this guy who's scared shitless, right? That's the purpose of this. Now, what's going to happen is, oops, I accidentally get, or not accidentally, I very much so get scared. So I pause it. And occasionally I'll do this where I'll come to the webcam, such as like this. I just come on over to the webcam. It's not a big deal, right? Whoopsie daisies. So here's me just looking terrified as can be. Now what happens is I'm actually going to get scared, and I'm going to forget to go back to the game screen. Here we go. So there's Manfred. I'm feeling really scared. Looking good. So I put Manfred on my shoulder just to be a little bit charming, but I actually am really scared while I'm doing this. So now I'm playing the game, and I haven't switched the screen back. God, I don't want him to pop up! I'm scared that a dead body's gonna pop up and chase after me, so here it comes. Scared! So I'm playing right now. Look, that is not the look of someone who is enjoying themselves, right? Look at this. God, I just look so stressed out. And the best part is, I get scared, and you get to see me flip out in full HD. Ah! God damn it! God! Oh my god. So here, I'm like trying to hide. I'm alternating between laughing and just being stressed out. Look at me, I'm like, ugh. And then I find it kind of funny. Alright, now this story, of course, gets enhanced. The story gets enhanced if we actually slow it down to about 50% speed. Alright, so here we go. 50% speed. Yeah, here it comes. Go to Papa! Even in slow motion, you have absolutely no idea what the hell I'm saying. Scared! I'm like flubbering. I'm so terrified. Here it comes. Alright, you know, I haven't done it at 2x. Let's just sort of see how that ends up faring. God, I want to pop up! I'm so scared! Ah! God damn it! God! Oh, I'm such a ninny. Alright, that's great. I just want God, I must have watched that video clip like 40 times last night. Oh, God. That is so embarrassing. But that's a little bit of what happened with Amnesia. Good. Now, today's daily, let's go ahead and introduce that topic. In the first part of this daily, we're going to be reviewing your submissions of the 3-gate robo PvP style. And then, in the latter half, or I guess in parts 2 and 3, we'll be going into we'll be going into Dimaga's Mutalisk Zergling style in Zerg versus Protoss. And again, I'll invite you to do the submissions for that as well. So let's just briefly review. Yes, I know, now that we're all starting to continue typing, ha 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 ha, laughing at me. Let's pop into some of your submissions to talk about this 3-gate robo style. Now, the important thing to note is that I have the sound off. The important thing to note is that there were two big ideas that we talked about. One was before the 3-gate robo, and the other one was after the 3-gate robo. Seems pretty straightforward, right? The before part, we want to talk about staying alive, defending against things, making sure that we're safe. Here's a really clean example of the start looking reasonably good. If we get to a game where we get uninterrupted to 3-gate robo, then we pretty much can label this as a success. In this game with Link, though, we want to be asking ourselves questions like, did the after turn out okay? Did everything end up working out alright? Oh. There we go. I had to turn off the banner so that way everyone could see my full terror unadulterated by my own logo, but now that we're into intellectual mode, the banner has returned. Excellent. So the big idea that we talked about is you either need to get a sentry up really, really quickly, or you need to end up getting a lot of units up really, really quickly. So that is, we either get the sentry to straight defend, or we get units up to bring the noise right away back at his base. I suggested the bring the noise style, because I like it a bit more, and because your average bear tends to think too defensive-minded. I think the gas might be a little bit early, but, you know, it all ends up looking good in the hood. And there's the lots of chrono boosts being spent on the gateway. That was a big concept that we emphasized. I don't necessarily think that the first chrono boost should have been on a Zealot, but I think the important thing that we're going to see Link do is get this Zealot and 2 Stalkers up right away. That was the big thing that we noted, and we say to attack with that. I will say, though, I think Link didn't attack early enough. You'll notice that this Zealot ends up lagging behind. You can start going apeshit with just these 2 units, and I want you to go apeshit. And I want to use the word apeshit because you'll remember it a little bit better. You don't attack early, you go apeshit. That's right. I'm doing my PvP apeshit transition into robo, and this is why this pressure is so good. Here's the before the 3-gate robo, and we're going to go into the after in a little bit. So you can clearly see the before. Why do we chrono boost out so quickly? Well, so that way we can go apeshit and we can do this sort of thing. Not just doing damage, but also getting to see exactly what's up in the main base. And of course, the one thing I do want to note as well, this isn't just, oh, Link's playing against a bad player. Huck had the exact same thing happen to him. Huck, the basically best Protoss in the world, had this exact attack do this exact kind of damage. So now the question is, what should you do as Link? There's a number of transitions that we threw out there. You can do things like Fast Colossus and do drops with the Warp Prism. That's good if he's going to be extended out, like with an expansion. If he's trying to go for some sort of big tech or big economy, we can do something like 3-gate Blink with Observers. That's just a generally good thing. Or we can build a lot of Immortals if we think he's going to have a lot of Stalkers. Given the fact that we have seen basically 2 gateways and a robo, I think it's safe to assume that we're probably not under any sort of immediate threat, and eventually what we're actually going to see is a lot of Stalkers out of our opponent. Link, I think, is playing smartly defensively now. I think this 1 Immortal is straight up genius. I think that this follow-up Observer is straight up genius. This 4th gateway I didn't like, though. I think Link's idea is good as a follow-up, but his execution ends up being a bit off. Right now, Link just knows he has a little bit of comfort. I would probably be going for an expand about now, just because I'm feeling good. These 3 Zealots, though, these are the biggest thing that made me go, oh, Link. Notice that these 3 Zealots, what do they contribute to? To expanding? To Blink? To Colossus? Really, they only contribute to an attack. They actually, someone might say, oh, well, this contributes to defending an expansion. To which I say, what expansion? There's no expansion here. These 3 Zealots are actually impeding an expand because they're getting in the way. So Link starts to move out, and now, boom, he knows Blink Stalkers are up. So if I'm in Link's position right now, what I would likely do is go non-stop Immortals and try to expand. Why? Because my opponent is crippled, and he is making largely Stalkers. Now Link, the one issue that we're going to see Link do that a lot of people did in their replay submissions is that they are going to go a little overboard. We see the 2 robo facilities here. We see the 4 gates up. Link, I mean, is crushing right now. I mean, look at this food differential. Look at the probe differential. He's crushing his opponent. But Link still is in the tragic position where he is essentially committed to winning with this next attack. He's committed to winning. These sorts of tactics are great, but doing a few too many things at once, a lot of Immortals, and going for the Warp Prism drop, and trying to go for Blink or what have you. I mean, I think a lot of people would clearly label this second robo as a mistake, but even if we ignore this, Blink plus hella ton of Immortals plus Warp Prism, just a little bit too much. And I'm always slightly concerned whenever somebody ends up in a situation like this, where they do a big push at the front. Come on, do your big push. Come on, come on. Where they do a push at the front, they crush, they do the drop at the back that feels so boner-inducing. You know, you're getting really, really, really excited because that game looked good. I don't want you to get that excited. Watch how excited Link gets. He doesn't even leave the game. He's still warping stuff in. His opponent's gone. But here's Link coming in. Yeah, awesome, right? It's very easy in a spot like that to get a little overexcited. And to... Oh no, the after went beautifully. I got everything I wanted up. I would say the before was really good. Before the 3-gate robo, that early push, really, 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 really good. Afterwards, I think it needed a little bit cleaning up, but the basic idea was there, starting to get a lot of those Immortals. Let's look at another game where some problems end up arising. I'm not even going to watch most of this game. I'm not even going to watch most of it because the huge problem happens right at the start. And yes, thank you for all the Amanda references, dear chat. We have Zero spawning here in the left corner. He is going to be doing our 3-gate robo play. And what was the thing that we said in the before? How do we stay alive? Well, we could get ourselves a sentry really quickly to force field defensively. Alternatively, we can get the Zealot and 2 Stalkers up quickly. That's what we saw in the last game. Now, many people will just build the Zealot and 2 Stalkers, and what I want to emphasize is that the positioning and the activity of that Zealot and 2 Stalkers is just as important. So here comes first Zealot, here comes first Stalker. Probably want to Chrono Boost that out, probably want to get that really quickly. Chrono Boosting probes a few too much. There we have 1 Chrono Boost finally going down. Still, I would like to spend 2 there. But again, you have 2 guys, you know what it's time to do? It's time to go ape shit. It's time to start advancing forward towards these watchtowers. Bring a probe, move out with these 2 guys, lock down this watchtower, you know, maybe move your Stalker to this one, move your probe to this one, start getting a little bit of map presence. Because watch the tragic things that happens to Zero. He starts moving out, and then he has this run around Daru thing, where his opponent goes to the left, and he goes to the right, and again, the reason you want to go ape shit early, you don't want this first Zealot caught behind. So here we see Voodoo Chai moving in, losing a lot of stuff here. This ends up being a real bad situation. Even this counterplay in the main ends up not really doing particularly much. Now, at this, you know, in the last game, we broke the ramp, we saw what our opponent was doing, and we did a little bit of damage. So in that last game, you had an educated assumption of where your opponent was at. Actually, I don't want to say educated. You knew exactly what the fuck he was doing, right? You knew clearly what he was doing, so you could respond accordingly. I'm going to make a couple of Immortals. Oh, look at that, he's going Blink. I'm going to go crazy with Immortals. Beautiful decision-making by Link. In this game, what we end up seeing is, well, we took a lot of damage in the main, we poked up and we lost a lot of stuff. We don't really have any clear direction of what we want to do. We don't have any clear direction because that start was so bumpy. That was the big problem with this game that I had. And that's something that I want you to be very aware of, is I just closed the game. I just shut it down. I'm done with it. It's important to do a healthy amount of that sort of thing. Oh, I lost right here. Not going to waste time doing any more analysis. That first Zealot and 2 Stalkers really should be pushing your opponent back. Why? Because you're spending 2 chrono boosts to get him out so quickly. What if my opponent does the same? Well, then your opponent still shouldn't be getting up your ramp. You should be meeting in the middle and then both backing off. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, the last game, was the idea of analyzing the after portion. We described 3-gate robo as a beautiful platform where you can step into the subsequent stages of the game feeling confident because you have a number of options. Our hero in this game, well, his name is actually Sack Patrol. We have Sack Patrol. Sack Patrol is going to be opening up with our lovely 3-gate robo build. Everything essentially goes according to plan. And because we described 3-gate robo as the platform to step into the later stages of the game, we can just go ahead and talk about those later stages. You can go Blink Stalker. See, here's the fast robo. You can go Blink Stalker. You can go Mass Immortal Expand. You can go Colossus with Warp Prism Harass. All sorts of fun shenaniganry. So Sack Patrol, you'll note, Sack Patrol doesn't even break up into his opponent's base. He doesn't get that much information. He actually has to retreat with his first Stalker. Ignore these pylons for the time being. He actually has to pull back a considerable amount. He's getting his first Observer back. Locke does end up. They have a small engagement out here, but you know, Sack Patrol doesn't really do anything particularly nutty in aggression. He just kind of moves forward, feels comfortable. And around 6 minutes and 3 seconds, notice that Sack Patrol has his probe here, and is probably feeling a little bit confident that he's not going to be under gigantic, crazy pressure at the start of the game. Lock miss micros. So Sack Patrol doesn't really need to get an Immortal out right now, so he goes straight for Twilight Council. I loved what Sack Patrol did at this phase in the game. He wanted to go for the Blink Stalker right afterwards. He has his Observer up to do a little bit of double checking. So now we are in the realm of, I stayed alive, I have my nice setup. What now? Now, I gave you a number of options, like Mass Immortals and Expand, like really fast Colossus push with Warp Prism Harass, like 3-gate Blink Stalker. What I want to note about those second 2 things, the 3-gate Blink Stalker and the Colossus Warp Prism, is a lot of people think about those specific attacks, but then not about the general flow of gameplay. In other words, how do I get more expansions? The first one, Mass Immortal Expand, if I tell you to do that, you're automatically, just by repeating out loud what you're doing, getting into the later stages of the game. Watch what happens with Sack Patrol. I think this is one of the most common things that you'll end up seeing. A player going for Blink. Come on, Sack Patrol. B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B B. There it is. So Sack Patrol starts advancing forward and sees, holy crap, my opponent is expanding. Thinks a very reasonable thing. Maybe I can break this. If not, maybe I can just pick off some sentries and be in decent shape. At this point in time, this is where the big mistake happens. Blink is great. Cool. Our opponent has expanded. Cool. In terms of harassing and expansion, 8 Stalkers is basically going to be just as effective as 16 Stalkers. Almost no matter what your engagement is when you're going Blink Stalkers, you're going to be blinking back until you've totally crushed your opponent, and then you can blink in for a quick win. But if you're up against someone like Locke, who's just building a bunch of Immortals, you'll never be able to engage. In other words, Sack Patrol is going to be committing to adding on more and more Blink Stalkers, but it won't really do that much damage. See, he's poking back and forth. He's trying to pick off some of these units, being very conservative. And the units lost tab, yup, doing much better in that one. And here we go. Blink's now done. What do you do now as Sack Patrol? What do you do? Things are looking quite even. More mortals are continuing to flood out. Uh-oh, here it comes. Joink. And notice that all the Stalkers are still running. Did it matter that there were more Stalkers or not? Well, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't. The stalkers are mostly running. What I want you to do is I want you to put yourself in Sack Patrol's shoes for the time being. You went Blink Stalker, you got to do what you wanted, and now I'm sure you do all this sorts of stuff, where you're blinking in, you're doing these poking damage. Let me get some Zealots in. Oop, maybe I'll blink in and kill off his Immortals. Well, that worked okay decently, let me pull back. And all the while, you feel encouraged to build more and more and more Blink Stalkers. And this is reasonable the first couple of times you start going Blink. If you're, even at Master and Grandmaster level, people start winning right about now. Like, Blink Stalker players will win. And that's great. It's obviously good to do strategies that give you wins, especially when you can do stuff like this, kill off the robo. Yeah, alright, awesome. But the fact is, only just now has Sack Patrol really expanded, thinking to himself, damn, I'm not going to win with this attack. The first time that happens in your experience, it can be very rattling, where you're used to having one by now. It's 13 minutes. It felt reasonable at all points in time. Yeah, this is where I keep on adding Stalkers. This is where I keep on adding Stalkers. But I want to caution you, anytime you have something like you go 3-gate robo, and then you have a follow-up attack planned, a lot of times it'll win, and a lot of times, even more when you get higher, you'll be even. And that's when you should expand. Especially with Blink. I think people expand way too late. Because as we're going to see, let me just ×8 this to wrap this point up and move right along. We're going to see Sack Patrol be decent in the late game. He's going to do decently. This game goes on for quite a while. I started ×8ing it at 12 minutes. In fact, it should even be lagging for you because there's like so much stuff going on right now. Look at him blinking around to try to delay this army, popping up into the main, doing some more swing around Aru, getting Zealot Archon up. We have 2 forges that start upgrading. A 3rd base ends up getting planted here by Locke that Sack Patrol ends up seeing. He tries to kill the Dark Templar. This is the sort of game where I would stop and I would do this. I would say, dude, Sack Patrol, at 12 minutes you hadn't expanded. When did you expand? At 12 minutes and 30 seconds, aka when your main was 2/3 gone. Look at that, 435 minerals in that mineral field. And in fact, if we bounce back to 8 minutes, I'd be like, dude, Sack Patrol, you see your opponent expanding, you know you're going to be able to do some damage, just start an expansion, and then go back to doing exactly what you're doing. Because if you got an ultra late expo and still made it a 30-minute game, then if you get an early expo, you're probably going to win a much shorter game. So that's going to wrap up the basic discussion of the 3-gate robo. Again, we looked at 2 games actually where the after was a little bit too aggressive. People not expanding enough and just trying to really drill hard with these big attacks. Sometimes it'll work, as it did in the first game. Sometimes it won't work, as it did in this 3rd game, but it won't fail miserably on the spot. Instead, it will kind of peter out over the course of 10 minutes, and that can be very deceptive for learning. And of course, our second game was basically, we didn't do the early game properly, so let's not even worry about the late game. Now we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, it's going to be all about Dimaga's ZvP style. Yahoo! Woo! Dimaga's ZvP Muta Ling style.